And we are live. The
Wow.
buttons worked. Tom, good to see you, and
Good to see
tremendous
you.
jacket. I don't think I've ever seen you in that jacket, and I've seen you in most of your wardrobe over the years.
Yeah, this is relatively new. It's the Van Gogh Starry Night jacket. When you want to enter a party and be low key, this is what I wear to the party. And I had a fun dinner on Sunday night. This is what I wore out to dinner on Sunday night.
I got a great idea. The next time you go to one of your celebrity auctions, you should
Yes,
auction off that coat, and you could raise about $2,000 or $10,000 with a little signature on the inside.
that would be cool. Yeah, just so it was Patrick Mahomes' signature, not mine.
Man, our friends in Buffalo are down because our friends in Detroit 2 weeks ago went even lower than the Bills because I thought they were going to win the Super Bowl, and they didn't even make it to the conference championship.
That was
Once
bad.
again, Tom, Josh Allen can't win in Kansas City when he has to win in Kansas City or he's eliminated.
And Bills fans are losing their minds. It's the JFK assassination. It's illegal immigrants starting fires in LA. Whatever it is that people love to make up, and terrible things happen. The referees, it's all fixed. It's just a TV show. There's that whole odd wing going on of people who think that goes on in the NFL, and it drives me nuts. As I was texting back and forth with my great friend Grubba the prison guard, I'm like, win the game. And then you don't have to worry about crazy conspiracy theories if you win. If you don't go with the quarterback sneak, it hasn't been working again and again and again. And you got probably the third best running back in the NFL. Let James Cook and just toss it to him. See if he can get an inch.
Well, the problem was Josh Allen went for it on 4th and 1. I think they went for it 6 times. There were 4 or 6, which is an enormous number. Enormous number. And the biggest one, the one that they were up by 1 point, 22-21, if the pile moved where I saw it move past and it got by it by a millimeter, not a centimeter, it's a first down. Buffalo's got a new fresh set of downs.
Yep.
Kansas City eventually might have to start calling timeouts. Buffalo could score and maybe score again and put the game away, but they didn't get it. And I'm going to start to tell you this. They don't know how to mark the football. One guy comes in from one sideline, the guy or girl on the other. They go, what do you have? What do you have? And they step their foot down into mud and they go, that's where the ball goes. They have no idea where the ball goes. No concept of where the ball is exactly. Unlike tennis, if the ball hits it, you see it on the video screen. They can't do that in the NFL. It costs Buffalo.
Yeah. My Grandpa Looney was complaining about this in the 70s. Okay. This has been going on for way too long. But, what do you do? Put a chip in the ball? I know. I don't know if we have the technology for this reason because of the funny way the ball is shaped. Maybe you can't. But, okay. If we can come up with vaccines and we can walk on the moon and do all the things and put rovers on Mars, shout out to Pasadena, the great people there who do all that work. Then we can probably electronically know if that ball goes over the line.
You got to give Josh Allen a little bit of the blame because when Jalen Hurts does the push, it's perfect every time. And they not only got to get an inch, they fall forward for 3 yards every
No.
time. And 6 foot, whatever, six, Josh Allen can't use his legs and get down lower and push the pile in the weight room. And he turns his back sideways, if you're watching, and makes it more tough to see the ball because he turns his back into the crowd. What's he doing, Tom? It shouldn't be a tough play.
Well, it normally isn't. Normally, guys are even afraid to tackle him. Well, that's when he's, after once he gets into the secondary, it's so no one wants to break a nail. But first of all, it's hard to tell him not to have all the confidence in the world that he can get an inch because he does. What is fun about watching you play? How you're not going to change that mentality on Josh Allen. To his credit, when he's out there, it's like he's the early bloomer. If you're watching Pop Warner football, they're 12 and 13 years old, and there's that one kid the size of Andy Reid, and everyone else is 2 feet tall, right? And that's Josh Allen, and so that's how he looks sometimes in the NFL when he's playing. Okay, I'll take over this game. How many guys can do that? Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. They're so much fun to watch, unless they're not, because they're torturing you. And so it's hard to take that type of confidence away from Josh Allen, take that type of mentality away. He's their guy. He can usually get it. And he didn't. Well, and they did, the defense. The defense was amazing. They blitzed at the right time with the Kansas City defense because people love to say the word spags. That's my drinking game. Oh my God! And so he's a great defensive coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's the way that they knew he always goes. He has a habit of going to the left. They studied their film, and he didn't break out of that habit and surprise anybody and go to the right.
Well, I got a great topic here on this one. You might want to grab a pen and kind of put it down because I think you could use it on the penny when you're in Burbank next time when you hear this. Josh Allen, 7 seasons. So easy to remember. He's at 7, lucky number 7. 6 playoff games in 7 years. 4 losses to the Chiefs in the last 5 playoff games. 2 of them in the AFC Championship game. Okay, so I told you the key to this is 7 years. That's what he's had. Hasn't gone to the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning in his 7th playoff appearance, that came in his 9th season, not his 7th. 2 longer than Josh Allen, 2 playoff losses to Brady before winning the first of 2 Super Bowl titles. So it took Peyton Manning longer than Josh Allen, who's been to 2.
Somebody better than Peyton Manning, John Elway, took him even longer.
Yeah.
And he took teams to the Super Bowl. He won conference championships. Took teams, couldn't win it. He had the same, Lamar Jackson, Peyton Manning, Josh Allen, and John Elway, same trajectory. John Elway won his first 2 Super Bowls his last 2 years in the league.
So a lot of cities, big sports towns like Philly, Boston, New York, where we're from, maybe more downstate, when you can't win after this many years, they call you a loser. And they go on AM sports radio and they run you out of town like they historically did in Philadelphia. They did this to Donovan McNabb. We knew it. We interviewed Donovan at Super Bowls together. They were running him out of town. Josh Allen's from Buffalo, not originally from there, but he's up there. Buffalo knows he's the best quarterback they're ever going to get since Jim Kelly, but they're starting to scratch their head going, hey, is it the coach or the quarterback? Because we can't beat this team from Kansas City.
Well, it's probably the coach. They have a defensive coach. It seems like offensive coaches are mostly working these days in the NFL. And it was probably their coach's fault when they should have squib kicked it, woulda, shoulda, coulda, and would have beat the Kansas City Chiefs and gone on to the Super Bowl. Look, they're lucky to have Josh Allen. He's so perfect for upstate New York. He looks like upstate New York. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to blame him.
He's a great player. It's taken him a while to win. We saw Dan Marino go as a rookie. I remember that like it was yesterday. He never went back. Let's remember what I said about Josh Allen. He hasn't been to the Super Bowl. If Jalen Hurts has already lost the Super Bowl and going to his second, right? So he's playing in 2. Josh Allen hasn't gone to a Super Bowl yet, and it's year 7. So we're going into year 8. And man, they've been damn good. But I think this is a fresh, hot Doritos take that I have that no one else seems to be bringing up. A couple of years ago when they had the lead with 13 seconds left, you know what they had on the field? A guy named Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis had 4 touchdowns. Mac Hollins, the guy who walks in with bare feet wearing costume characters on his head, was their number 1 target. You think that's a problem? Max Hollins played in Miami. He played with the Raiders in Vegas. He's a number 3 wide receiver, and you're giving that to Josh Allen to go into Arrowhead and beat Kelsey and Mahomes? Are you kidding me?
Don't forget his great career in Rockville, Maryland in high school. But he's a great look at his teammates love him. He's not going anywhere. It's that argument. They got rid of their star receiver, and guess what happened? Josh Allen spread the ball out. They had their best year ever offensively. They didn't lose at home, and no turnovers. Josh Allen was a turnover machine. Not anymore. He's not taking those risks. He did look a little shaky, like the first quarter or so. He did look, and Patrick Mahomes didn't.
Well, I think I got the answer, as you like to say, from Michael Caine over the years. The only way Josh Allen's going to the Super Bowl is he needs a home game. I'm done with him on the road in the championship. It's 4th and an inch, and you can't get 4th and an inch. And Jalen Hurts and these guys get it easily. You didn't do it. You're the quarterback. It's your play. Check out of it. Number 2, he didn't notice a blitz was coming on the last play of the game when Kincaid could have caught that. He made a great throw. He saw the blitz. It was great. right? But he didn't know, and guess who did? Drinking game alert, Spags. Spags sent the blitz, and the great Josh Allen, who I like Joe Burrow, all these great players, he got beat by Spagnola and a cornerback who came off the edge in the blitz, and the great Josh Allen barely could get the ball off. That's a quarterback or coaching problem. So I'm disappointed with the refs in that game. I'm heartbroken for the Lion and Bills fans as I'm going next week to New Orleans, and neither one of those fan bases will be represented the way they could have been in New Orleans.
It would have been one of those great American NFL football stories because if it was the Detroit Lions and the Buffalo Bills, where it was win-win for one of those two cities, and a heartbreak for the other. But at least that was one matchup where the cities could be happy for each other. It was the only one, because both of those cities know that heartbreak. Well, actually, the Detroit Lions don't know any type of heartbreak. They don't usually ever get that far. The Detroit Lions, unfortunately for them, became the Detroit Lions again. Something miraculous is going to have to happen for them to get back to the Super Bowl. It's hard, man. You got a roster that good. It's hard to do that 2 years in a row, but they've been pretty consistent. Wouldn't be surprised me if they did. And the Buffalo Bills it's a nice problem to have when you've got a quarterback who can't get over the hump. Sooner or later, here's another thing that could happen, JT, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs lose, and the Bills have to face somebody else at home.
Well, we know this much. Buffalo's been there our entire life. We've been friends a long time and long before we met. Going back to my college years and in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, the birth of Jim Kelly, one of the greatest teams ever assembled when you look at the Hall of Famers and the big games. And this team still, into this decade and now 2025, are right there on the doorstep, and it just can't happen. And that's hard in this country. Normally a team breaks through every once in a while, every 40 years, 50 years, something happens. We're still waiting for a Buffalo Bills moment. I thought now that Detroit was out, if they won this game, they would have beat anybody on the NFC side, including the Eagles. But that's woulda, coulda, shoulda.
And it's the thing. It's tough for people in that area. It's the Rust Belt area. That in Buffalo, New York, is the fastest shrinking city in America. That's their team. They can't, they don't have LeBron to go watch and have a beer on Tuesday. Okay, I'll watch the Lakers on Tuesday, like I get in LA. They don't have another. They have the Sabres. They love their Sabres, but they're a Buffalo Bills town. Everybody in the city of Buffalo, even people who aren't interested in sports, sit down on Sunday and cheer for the Buffalo Bills because of the name on the front of the jersey, and because that's the name of their city that has no other. They don't have the opera. Nothing else going on in Buffalo. That's tough.
Tim Rush had said it the same way you said it throughout his Meet the Press broadcast closing out. He always wanted Buffalo for his team for that reason. The community of Buffalo, I'll say similar things about Detroit, and Detroit's been waiting even longer than Buffalo. So just one last thing on the game. You
haven't been watching the Situation Room. Wolf Blitzer always ends with that, too. And the Bills are in the playoff.
That's not my home team channel. I don't watch that all the time. But you notice what was the most important play call, referee decision of that entire game? No debate. It was the 4th and 1. Was it a first down or not? Not a holding, not a pass interference, not a roughing the passer, which you can get with Mahomes. Oh, you can get that in a Mahomes game. It was a call that was controversial. And whose favor did it go in? It went in the favor of Taylor in the box, the Swifties, the Chiefs Kingdom. It went in their favor again in a game that will remember that play more than any other, just like the Bengals and the late hit out of bounds for 15 yards and ended up being a game-changing play that the Bengals lost out on a trip to the Super Bowl. It seems, Tom, to go in the favor of the Chiefs, and they get a break, and they take advantage of it, and they deserve to win because they take advantage of these breaks.
Boxing fans have done this. I've been to at least 50 World Championship fights over the years. Mm-hmm. You've been to more. Went to them together. When my guy wins, he's supposed to win. When your guy wins, it's fixed. Win the fight, win the election, win the game, and then you don't have to do your conspiracy theory bullshit.
Nicely said. I had a sit down. I've had many interviews in my career. I'm really I look back on that and I'm very lucky the length of time I've been in the radio business, my whole career, and
You
how many
popped up on
interviews I've had.
Facebook.
Yeah, because I've gone to remotes and I've gone to events and we've done a lot of radio rows, a lot.
Mhm.
And I just sat down with Pete Carroll yesterday in the studio with Eric Allen, and I did a really comfortable, fun, energetic. So much came out of it. It was all Pete Carroll. I got out of the way because I was trained that way. It's not my interview, it's his. And Pete gave me Grateful Dead references, Ocean's 11, the movie references. He was all fired up, and I was really happy that I experienced that yesterday with the Raider Nation.
Oh, it popped up on my Instagram stories today. And I got a call from you yesterday, which I noticed hours later, and I noticed the time, and it must have been after you had the coaches interview. You must have been excited about it, and so I saw some of it today pop up on your incredible Instagram stories. I hope people are following you on the gram. And in Pete Carroll, I'm really excited about that hire because he's not going to be bad. He won't be. He's never been. Just take a look at what he's done with franchises that need a turnaround over the years. And he was cautiously optimistic. He said it didn't happen immediately at USC, it didn't happen immediately in Seattle. He wants people to know that. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see who he brings in at quarterback. I've heard the things whispered in hushed tones from Aaron Rodgers to Russell Wilson, and it's probably not going to be a rookie or Gardner Minshew. And maybe it could be, who knows, maybe the guy from Minnesota. Who do you want?
Oh, well, I'm not going to answer that now so someone can clip it up because we're going to give Pete a week before I'm interrupting on who he should have at quarterback. And John Spytek, what a name, the new GM. John Spytek.
I like that.
Star Trek, Spytek.
Yeah.
I always liked the veteran, but over the decades, since Rich Gannon, it's been hard to have a veteran. Derek Carr was very good. I'd love him to get a rookie quarterback. I'd love him to go big and trade up and get a rookie quarterback, or if it's Jackson Dart from Ole Miss or someone like that. I want him to go big at quarterback because we've gone through a long period of time without the Raiders having an exceptional young top of the draft pick.
Or for those of us who don't know his name, the guy from Syracuse.
Yeah, when you look at all the potential quarterbacks, you can go up and get one, but Pete Carroll, who's 73, going to be 74 when the season gets going. I don't know if his philosophy is going to be developing a rookie quarterback for 2 to 3 years to have bumps and bruises when he can go get a veteran quarterback and then get an elite running back in the draft instead of an elite quarterback and run it and play defense.
Pete Carroll's not rolling out of bed with a cane worrying about how many days he's got left. Pete Carroll is not 73 chronologically, and you can't be as a head football coach.
I know that.
I know you know that. We're just broadcasting.
But you don't think any coach now, if you draft a rookie quarterback in this league going forward, I mean, rookie top 10 pick. Bo Nix did really well at 12. Excellent, by the way. He was fantastic. Jaden Daniels was beyond brilliant. He won 2 playoff games as a rookie on the road. Put that down into your hat, Justin Herbert. Tell me when you do that, Justin Herbert in Los Angeles. I'm waiting to hear the call. But, man, if you get a rookie quarterback like Jordan Love who didn't play for 2 full seasons, or what happens if you get a guy that Kyler Murray, pretty good rookie year, second. It's going to take a while for any coach to say, I got to have a rookie, and my whole organization's got to be patient for him to develop. When you can bring in some guy in his late 30s or 40s that have been to 8 or 9 Pro Bowls, have a couple MVPs, or just won games recently the last couple of years, that always looks enticing, Tom, because they can win.
Yeah, it does, and there's quarterbacks out there that can, if they have the coach match up with the quarterback and the matchup with the offense. Just so they didn't used to do that. And one thing that's changed in the NFL, which is wonderful, is they'll bring in a quarterback who succeeded at Florida State or wherever, and they'll put in the offense that the quarterback succeeded with there. Remember, what they used to do, which was insane. They'd bring in Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. And they'd say, you're doing our system. Over the years, that was the way the NFL did it until the 2000s. You're doing our system. And then some smart guy said, well, what worked for him in high school? What worked for him in college? We're doing that here. They never used to do that. And now we get far better product on the field. And you love having a great quarterback out there. We may have more than ever.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said there. The one thing I'll tell you about Pete Carroll when I came out of that interview, wow. When you think of getting older and retiring, and all of us are
Mhm.
going to have that discussion, no matter how old you are, you can be a teenager watching the stream and listen on the podcast. A lot of people are going to want to retire. When he told me about the 1 year he took off, 1 year, twice in 50 years, he took 1 year off. When he got fired by New England and went to USC, he had a gap there and he wasn't their first or second pick. He changed
Right.
college football, one of the great back to back teams in the history of the sport. And then he took a year off before this Raider job. And to hear how comfortable he was in his skin to watch his grandson play JV football and to watch his son coach at Washington and to do all this other stuff and then go, I'm good and I'm coming back. We should all want to have that peace in our life. Most people can't take, like Grubba the prison guard or my buddies who I grew up with, they can't take a year off as they have their year job and they have to keep it every year if they're a teacher. Pete Carroll did, and his mind just was re-energized for a really tough job in Vegas.
The same thing with Pete Carroll probably, would happen with Grubba the prison guard. 1 year off is all they can take of their
Mhm.
wife. Which is not what Pete Carroll said, but I know that's what the Grubba would say. And hey, I just think it's great that we talked about this on your award-winning radio show, and that is when you take a look, if people are wondering about Pete Carroll's age. I mean, take a look at how these coaches look in their 70s. They look amazing running out onto the field. And take a look, people who are doing what they want for a living. Dick Van Dyke nominated for an Emmy at 99. How old was Betty White when she died? 99. Jimmy Carter was building houses and doing what he loved and doing the 18 different things he was interested in. He lived to 100. What you love, where it doesn't really feel like work. And one thing you have to be able to do as a coach, get people in their 20s to love you. I used to work with Jim Mora. We couldn't believe it when we looked up his age 20 years ago. He was born in 1933. So we thought we were working with somebody 55.
Yeah,
He
it
was
was
75.
great.
And he would come. He'd say, I'm bringing some of my friends from the NFL network. And he'd come into work. And there'd be like 6 guys or women who are 25 years old. Here's my friends. And like his friends. And he's 75 and they're 25. But that's their life. And they love motivating or getting younger people to love them, and and that's what Pete does, and he does it well.
I saw the Eagles at Sphere in Vegas. Now I've been to U2 twice, Dead and Company twice, a private event there that wasn't a show, but this
And by
was
the way, we have the Philadelphia Eagles coming up in the Super Bowl. These are the rock and roll
the
Eagles.
rock and roll iconic American band, arguably America's all-time greatest rock band, the Eagles, with Vince Gill.
They're
And
Mount Rushmore for sure.
they were fantastic. It sounded better than even Dead and U2, and they were great. It was
Well, that's because you have this affectation where you want all the songs to sound just like the
I
album.
do. That's not
And
about this
nobody,
topic. I'm just telling you,
nobody does that better than the Eagles.
it sounded perfect. They put a lot into their videos. Their videos told these great stories from Hotel California to Desperado, Boys of Summer. The video at the end ended up with a woman swimming in the ocean, felt like she was coming right at you. Once again, I'm recommending to everybody, get out to Sphere here in Vegas and see a show because you got to put it on your quick bucket list. You have to see it before everybody around you goes to a show there. It's that good.
You and I got to meet rock stars because for some reason they wanted to be talk show hosts. So we got to meet Jay Moore, the rock star of all rock stars in stand-up comedy, who was a talk radio addict and wanted to be more than anything else a sports talk radio host. Ended up working with us and treated us like rock stars because little did we know how often he listened to sports talk radio. And Steve Gorman, the drummer for the Black Crowes, who was out there in front of 90,000 people in the 90s, opening up for the
Great
Stones.
drummer. Great drummer.
And he had said one time he was talking about the Hotel California and the song Hotel California. And he said the one thing he was disappointed in with the Black Crowes, he said, we didn't have an Our Father. He says that is the Our Father of rock and roll, Hotel California. Isn't that a great analogy? It really is one of the greatest, most unbelievable rock and roll songs ever made.
Well, the Black Crowes have a few, and they're pretty iconic songs in their great album. But I'll tell you about Gorman. You want to talk loyalty? We'll break off because we're both loyal guys. I liked the Black Crowes when Gorman was there as the drummer. Saw him. I didn't know Steve back then, but loved the Black Crowes early. Once they treated Steve Gorman the way they did in that band, and he wrote about it in his book, and you can read all about it. But the way they treated my friend, and I didn't know Steve Gorman a long time. We went on a road trip to Seattle to the U.S. Open. He was our teammate on Fox Sports Radio. But the first time I met him, second, third time, I'm like, this guy, it's the salt of the earth. I will never go see the Black Crowes. They play all the time in Vegas. I will not walk into the venue because of the way they treated our friend Steve Gorman.
Same here. I have no enthusiasm for the Black Crowes anymore for the same reasons you do. No Steve Gorman, no Tom Looney. It's like when all the Palooza concerts. I always say, no Dada Life, no Chainsmokers, no Tom Looney. And same thing when it comes to the Black Crowes. That was my great pride and joy of knowing the drummer, and he was another guy that was fans of sports talk radio and felt like he knew us better than we knew him because of listening over all these years. And when someone like that, when I sat down, because their show would come on before ours, and I would anchor the updates on their show, so that we sat down to meet. And he said these words of the JT and Looney show. He said, "I'm a fan." And so I just thought, wow, just a fan of our show. So so of course, I'm like Trump. He likes me, I like him.
Ooh, a nice segue, by the way. You'll crack up about this. One of my great group texts. I have a number of them, but my Buffalo boys were texting back, and I said, wow, he's done a lot in the last 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks of his presidency. They all yelled back at me. It was 1 week. It's a little over 1 week total. And I said, man, you're right. I was concentrating on the fires in L.A., for the sports side of us. You had the AFC, NFC championship game weekend, the playoffs just a week before. Went to this. I had friends in town, and I turned around and I said, man, I can't keep up with my news feed, and I have multiple of them. There's a lot going on here over the last week. What do you think?
Well, he's a branding guy. And you realize, he was overwhelmed the first time he was elected president. He knows how to brand himself, get stuff out there, get your name out there. And he loves that part of it. And get the policy out there, whether it's going to work or not. And so I think people may burn out on it, but it's not going anywhere. And we've been through it once already. So people aren't going to be, people can stop wee-weeing if as much as they used to. We have one thing we can always control if somebody doesn't like what the president is, our reaction to it. The thing is, as Marcus Aurelius would say, the thing is what it is. It's got no opinion of you. You don't have to have an opinion of it.
Well, the Ukraine war didn't stop this week, and the price of eggs didn't go down. They went up. But a lot of other things were done. Like them or not, a lot of volume. If you like volume in the first 7 or 8 days, it might take a week or two for the pundits to go back and look and read back of what kind of passed underneath the bridge or passed below their radar because so much volume went down.
And I think that's what part of what his style is. Just all of a sudden it becomes noise, and people say, there they are picking on the president again, no matter, even if he deserves it. But people become immune to it because of the volume. But it's if you don't, there's a couple of things. First off, if you don't like who was elected president, there's a lot of things to pay attention to. Join the opera, right? There's a lot of things in the world to pay attention to. How about pick up another sport or watch UFC if you're a boxing guy. Whatever it is, pick up a book. But you don't have to follow politics, and you don't have to get upset about it. It's your choice, the emotions that you choose to have over what's happening, and enjoy your life. The president doesn't have that much of an effect on your life. As long as the S&P 500 has been around, our economy has expanded about 10% as long as we have been alive. A couple of glitches, but it's not as long as we've been alive. Last 100 years, our economy improves almost year to year, almost every year. A couple of downturns. I know the Great Depression, and in the early 90s we had some mid 2000s, but that's 3 I can name off the top of my head. There's not many more. Things will be okay.
Peace and prosperity in the new year. Just started. The new year just started, so let's all be on the same team. Let's
Yeah,
all like
let
root
people
for good
agree with
things to
me.
happen,
I think
considering
it was
some of the
Jesus.
other things that we've seen over the past year. Now, I'm concerned about the movie industry. I know we're having Jackson Murphy on here coming into award season.
Mhm.
I'm thinking tonight, and I'll let you know if I go, but I'm thinking tonight seeing the Bob Dylan movie. So I
Ooh.
want to knock that out because of the volume of the award nominations. And I'm
Uh,
hearing mixed reviews, but mostly good reviews. I want to see that. But there's a lot of things that I'm looking at in these categories that I'm way unfamiliar with. I'm not going to dedicate my time to the theater. I'm not going to see some of these movies that look way out there that maybe
mm.
I'm not comfortable with, but I'm not uncomfortable with. I just don't have the time to see it. Give me a
Well, same
couple of
here.
things to look at before the award season so I know what to see.
Well, the one thing that happened when our schedule was a little more, just when we just had a little more stable. Now, what I mean by non-stable is we're doing more things. I would always Sunday night was a movie, and remember the nominations would come out, and I'd say my work has been done. Well, everyone else was saying, "What's I never heard of these movies." Not me, but well, there's a lot I haven't seen. I will tell you, maybe it was the wine, but I saw the George Foreman movie. Believe me, that'll be never be nominated for anything. Our friend Al Bernstein was in that movie, and I think
Yes.
they used Zoom. I want to know if he did it on Zoom. You didn't see him, just heard him, and it was low budget, and I
Mm.
loved it.
Oh, you did?
It's, it was a great story. The acting was okay.
Okay.
The movie was, it was. You could tell they didn't have a budget, but God, it was a good movie. Did you see it?
I did not. And it's one that I would watch fun if my sons were around, but I'm not going to knock that out with the wife. And we try to go to a movie here or two, but I want to see something that's going to win the Academy Award for
Oh,
Best Movie. I want Best Actor. I want to go see a movie or two that I'm going to come out of that's going to say, man, that's a great movie. When it wins all these awards, I'll understand why. That's what I'm looking for.
yeah. And there's that movie with the cousins that travel together, that drive each other crazy, but they're best friends. That I can't think of off the top of my head. That I almost went to see a couple Sundays ago. That looks fun. Love my cousins. We're both close to our cousins. So we grew up in families where our cousins were our friends. So I will see that one. Would help if I knew the name. But if you have some time and after a bottle of Silver Oak, check out the George Foreman movie.
I will do that. Finally, we're going to try to do it with me in New Orleans and you back here, or we'll do it right before I go. We have to have our Super Bowl podcast, which has been a
Right.
treasure of ours for a very long time. I'll give you a little tease on it. And it happened a couple of years ago because we just saw the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 57, so it's recent. These are the two teams I despise in sports more than any two. And there's a lot of other teams I don't like the Red Sox and the Celtics, because I'm a New York guy. But even the Phillies, I don't like, but not a big deal. I despise the Eagles my whole life, and I now currently despise Kansas City for a number of reasons. Raider connection, being out here in the AFC West. So it's one of the only handful of moments in my life I'll be rooting for a Philadelphia team. And I think because Saquon Barkley is so damn good right now. And
Ah,
we used to say, well, he got 1,000 yards rushing. Oh, in 17 games, 80 yards a game. That's not great. This guy can go off for 200 in the Super Bowl or 165 and 2 touchdowns. And that'll be a big part of our Super Bowl podcast, why I believe he's the only chance that the Eagles have.
there was a Vegas prop and a prop we had on Benny versus the Penny on Peacock, where would there be a run of over 68 yards? I think it was, and
Wow.
or a run of over 58 yards, a run of over 58 yards, and Eagles knocked out that prop on the first play.
I believe we lost Looney right at that second. And this went on longer than we thought. This has been going on for 35 minutes. And then he just disappeared right at the end of that word. So maybe his camera timed out or something. Thanks, everyone. This turns into and is the JT and Looney podcast. We try to stream it. So I have the YouTube channel, JT the Brick YT. And then we have more platforms like Instagram. Looney and I both have Instagram, Facebook, so we can put it out to more people. So I appreciate everybody who dove in today. It's been busy the last couple of days here. Thanks a lot for listening and